Hello, everybody. I think we're recording. Welcome to Aquarian Radio, and I'm your host, Janet Carol Lessin. I'm here with my sidekick, my wonderful husband, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin, who has a PhD in anthropology from UCLA, master's in psychology. Anyway, we're going to be serious. Alrighty. So we're talking about this wonderful book called, let's see, we're doing selections and readings from Psychopathocracy, which means Roll by Crazies by Greg Caton, C-A-T-O-N. Let me just 1 second. And the full title is Why Criminality is Essential to Effective Modern Government, Our Rebirth in the Wake of Their Destruction of Our World. Greg Caton, and illustrated by David Dees. And we're going to go through some books over the next few weeks and try to catch up and educate ourselves in the world. Dr. Lessin.
Show the screen,
slide.
the first screen.
I'm
so
going
we can
to
talk
share
about it,
screen. Let's see us crazy people now. There we go. Over to the slideshow and begin from the beginning.
Yes.
See if this works. Here we go.
Okay, so Caton writes that government is evil, basically evil, absolutely evil. And it maintains what he calls a benign common narrative. And this benign narrative is the generally held belief that people accept about themselves, their principles, their culture, and their government. And it's deliberately fixed to hide their maliciousness, according to Caton. He says, governments are parasitic to the masses they rule. The resources they must secure to support their infrastructure and operations take more from the general public than they give back. Governments align with the elite, moneyed, resource-rich constituents that serve to secretly enslave financially the majority who don't have as much.
Okay, before we go into the book, what is this slide you created for us? Tell us about that.
Oh, this is the initial slide to the show, and it's got some a pistache of some of the things that you'll get as you go to the slides with us, but you'll ultimately see that what it all comes down to, I guess if I'm rapping about this, is that the Anunnaki, who came from Nibiru, basically showed us how they were. They gave us genes to make us partly like they were. They had the assumption of, and they trained us that that you gotta belong to a group that's against the other groups. And just like we are always opposed to each other and fighting to be top dog, that's the way to be. And basically, we just got used to and been operating by their principles. And they left people here, the ones that stayed, that were running things this very way. And when you really look at what we're going to be looking at in this and other programs, you're going to see that we don't got to do it this way. There's much better ways, and these people were, put themselves out and let themselves be worshipped like they were gods, but they were not gods. They were people just like us, and we're just like them. And they've evolved, and we've evolved, and it's things are changing. And I'd like to start the slides rather than just stay on that one all the time.
Okay, so I do that. What's this one about?
I'd like to.
I'll read this in. The U.S. government has authorized the bailout of large Wall Street institutions to the tune of trillions of dollars since 2008, thus burdening the entire rest of the U.S. citizenry by hyper-diluting the common currency, piling up the public debt, and impoverishing untold generations of future Americans. Hold on. Working through the book. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, and the Bilderbergers view the entire world as their personal fiefdom. Their function is to make the entities, okay, wait, go to the next thing. They openly support the criminal activities of governments and their associated multinational partners in these sectors. They partner with governments, providing them with financial support. They benefit from favors, contracts, kickbacks, political hits, suppression of competition, freedom from prosecution or mitigation. There's the enactment of laws supporting their agenda, favorable tax treatment, special loopholes, special considerations related to trade and tariffs, preferable public relations treatment, better media coverage, etc. I'm going to the next page.
Thank you. I'll take this now.
Next page. Okay. Back to Sasha.
So go to the next slide, please.
Okay, will do.
Government engineers, they actually create a problem. And then after they've created the problem, they act like they're surprised. But it's really, they're surprised by the crisis that they deliberately created. Okay. Then in they come. They've got the solution. Whatever it was fully planned way before the initial problem was ever executed. They use this as preludes to military confrontations. They did it by sinking by U.S. agents of the USS Maine in Havana. They engineered the sinking of the Lusitania. They engineered the Gulf of Tonkin incident. They withheld intelligence on the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, and they were inside the job that made 9/11 attacks. So that's a lot that Catton's saying. I want you to really get it. He's saying that this is this, hey, well, let's create a problem, and then we'll say, what should we do? And we'll say, oh, we got the solution, and we'll save you, and we'll get what we really want. So he's very specifically, Catton is on record here with this incredible book, saying that this was a deliberately planned initial problem. First, preludes to wars. Deliberately, Americans sinking the Maine in Havana. That's the Spanish-American War. Sinking the Lusitania. That's the beginning of us getting hot about World War I. The Gulf of Tonkin. That's LBJ's excuse for attacking the Vietnamese. Roosevelt knew the Japanese were coming and told the stand down, don't take defensive posture. I want lots of casualties so we can attack the Japanese, and the Germans will attack us and we can save Britain. And Catton is saying absolutely 9/11. The evidence is overwhelming that this was an inside job, an excuse to take away civil liberties of people here by an act that had been prepared way, way in advance, and to roll back into Afghanistan full on, and to kill a bunch of Iraqis and seize the oil, and et cetera. You know how it goes. Catton is telling it like it is, it looks to me.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have if you wanted to stop the audience again. Okay.
Your turn,
and
baby.
you want me to stay on this slide or do the next slide?
Let's do the next slide.
Here we go. Next slide. Let's see what that is.
Oh, no, let's wait.
Wait too soon? Okay,
Yeah,
back.
back. That's good.
Okay, and now
We'll just stay with this. That's a perfect one.
I'm right here.
You're right here.
Right. Money influences which proposed paradigms become seriously examined. And so we're talking about, oh, that's you.
Yeah, my turn.
Yeah, we say one word.
Oh, say the other word.
Government conspiracies measure victim resistance. So we're going to chapter 4 of the book. And the goal is to get the rape victim to accept her victimhood as benevolent. So isn't that kind of like, what's that called? The
Stockholm
syndrome. Yes, never mind. You talk now.
No, go ahead. This is
No. You can.
okay. I got to see. I've marked the parts of the book for each of us.
That's okay.
So
we'll just listen to you for a moment.
Okay. So what Caton says is since 9/11, there was a bunch of testings. Americans were tested again and again with these false flag or kind of events. One lie after another, says Caton. Each was more ridiculous. And so now leaders can funnel trillions of, to their criminal bankster buddies, and nobody bats an eye. Can you actually believe that, you know, jet fuel? That's a good one. You know, this is very, very painful.
Well, we get desensitized, and we get these things become normalized.
Yeah.
The official explanation of JFK's assassination was completely fabricated. Had JFK known, okay, the steps, toes he was stepping up, with his attempts to neuter the privately held Federal Reserve Bank. There we go. He was making himself an assassination target. And many Americans were willing to accept the official version. They cowed into submission for fear of appearing to be conspiracy theorists. They take words and demonize these words, and then we don't even like pay attention to what's going on because we're so fearful of being accepted or rejected. 50% of the American people actually believe the astonishingly bogus official explanation. One of the commission's members, Gerald Ford, would become a U.S. president just 10 years later. In 1992, Ross Perot was pulling.
He was towering.
He was towering over other candidates of the two officially sanctioned U.S. political parties. Perot, let's see this.
Perot dropped out.
So he was dropping out of the race because his family had been personally threatened by agents of the Bush family, and Germany's Nazi Party Operation Paperclip the CIA with its $600 billion a year in black ops, cocaine, and heroin operations. So anyway, that's what was going on. The gullibility testing on the American people was 9/11, so that's how gullible we were. We got that. The official party line was that radical Muslims hate us for our freedom and has nothing to do with the indiscriminate bombing of children and women in Arab countries. To secure the oil, gas, Afghani poppy fields, and anything else we can steal. Okay. Okay, we're not done with the show yet, so let's keep talking.
No, okay, keep talking, baby.
At the end of that, okay. So, what do they say? They're basically saying that they it's a false flag event.
I think that so let me say that this is I've just summarized just a sample of Caton's work, and I put all of his YouTubes where he explains how it works. It's so well done. They're all up on my website, www.enki.speaks.com. And like, I read this book. I mean, this is a Tom Paine of our day. This is how government steals the life, the property from everybody. And it's built into the system, and we don't have to do the system. We don't have to once we understand how it works. In any case, we want to tie this in now to how this was programmed into us. And these three guys you're seeing on the screen are just the latest version of stuff that's in each one of us too, both it and its opposite. So let's look at our ancestors. And we're going to do a slideshow, and we're going to show each slide, and then Jen and I are going to rap about it.
There we go.
Okay, so the main thing we're going to, the place we're going to come from is that the guy that's been running things on Earth really keep running us against each other and making a really terrible time for people here on Earth, for a lot of people, is a guy that came from the planet, another planet, so he says, called Nibiru. And he's the one that's been ruling the earth, pretending to be different factions and nations and gods and stuff, and playing himself against each other. And then there's other people from his planet that come to, and try to foul him up. And it's just, anyway, look, the trivial, the difficulties we've been having are difficulties, our travail, have been, he says, part of conditioning us so that we get smart enough to get computers to work it out so that we stop ruining our planet and killing each other off. And he and the people that he came from are pledged to helping us get over the mess they programmed us for. And they say it's time now, especially since we're lined up out with the galactic core, and it's time to leave with our Kali Yuga, the junk times, and enter the good times, the Sata Yuga, the Aquarian age. Let's go. What do you want? You want to have something before we do?
No, I'm just following the slide.
Your turn. Okay, let's get your turn.
So Mars came to Earth from the planet Nibiru, and here's the orbit of Nibiru, which is in a different pattern than the rest of the solar system, and that's because it was captured and brought into the system. And there's a whole history on that, but we won't go into that right now. But this gives you an idea of it comes in from a different orbit, and every 3,600 years approximately, it affects the planets. And that's why we have stories of the flood. And
that's going clockwise. All the other planets that are in the disk of the orbit of Earth are going anti-clockwise, and this causes toroids of certain types that ultimately determine why it is that the large planets are far from the sun and the small planets are close to the sun.
Okay.
Okay, so Marduk, this guy who's been in charge for so long and is just now getting off it, was motivated by this treaty, where his father's father and the guy that was king signed a deal. These guys, the king, Lama, before all this dynastic thing happened on Nibiru. And the people of Nibiru were people of Lyrans like us. Our ancestors all come from the Lyran group, who'd they'd sojourned in the Pleiades. They were some of the royalty from the Pleiadian unity kingdom, and ultimately they settled on the planet Nibiru, or they called it Sa'ami. It has a lot of other names, but Sa'ami or Nibiru. And they had this wars with each other, thermonuclear wars, and they killed off most of the dudes and made a lot of them sterile. And finally, the North and the South rulers, after this terrible war, got together and said, "Look, let's make a peace treaty. Whoever will do a drawing, one of us will supply the queen, the other will supply the king, and we'll have a new line that'll rule the entire planet." And so that's exactly what happened. So we come down to the king in the times that we're going to be looking at on Nibiru, some 500,000 years ago. There was this hole in the ozone from all this nuking and everything. And so the scientists said, "Hey, you got to do something about it. Why don't you drop some bombs down the volcanoes? Maybe they'll make ash, and that'll keep our atmosphere from dwindling and fill a hole in the ozone." Others said, "You know what else you could do? You get gold, and you can make it really small to the size of it could float up in the air, monoatomic gold, and that could plug the hole." And the king said, "Well, I got to ask my wife." And the wife said, "Don't you listen to that scientific climate change bullshit. You just pray and everything's going to be cool." He said, "Okay, baby." But this one guy, the prince, who, his name was Alalu, said, "Phooey on this." I'm going to, and he gets all the other princes, and they rush the gate, and they overpower the guard, and Alalu, this guy, chases the king up to the top of the tower, and they have this great big battle, and he throws him off the tower. He said, "I'm king now." Okay, that's what he said. Well, everybody, this other guy comes up and he said, "Hey, you know what? When the king's dead, I'm the next in line. My name's Anu, and Alalu said, the guy that said, no, I don't want to let them rebel you. I'll tell you what, let's not fight over this. Look, I'll give you the number 2 position. You're going to be rich, have everything you want. And your son, your oldest son, Enki, well, a little later on, he's our Lucifer, but your son Enki marries my daughter, her name Damkina, and their kid will follow me, and you get to be the prime minister in the meantime. Okay, it's a deal. They sign off on it. We should. You want to wrap about anything about that before we go to the next slide or not?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm ready to go to
Your
the
turn.
Slide. Okay, next slide. So Marduk was first in line as Nibiru's king. But Anu, which is his grandpa, his father's father, broke his oath and took Nibiru's crown. And we think the backstory on this was that Anu really wanted to have his pure line. He didn't want to have children that were descended from Alalu, his enemies. So in order to maintain his bloodline, he wanted to have a second Endo, who wasn't from a union with the Alalu clan. He wanted to have his clan.
I thought perhaps that it might also be that there was a rumor that that the woman that Anu had Enki with was partly Draco also, and he was afraid not of Alalu as much as he was because he really did have trouble with Alalu's line. That was for on and on. It goes on for hundreds of years. But he also was worried, in addition to, I don't want the Dracos to be able to have their line overpower my line genetically.
Right. So we have these little backstories.
Yeah.
And we're not sure. We're just kind of speculating. And so there's the story that we get with the Sumerian text, but then we have all these other stories from people that are exposed to the stories in their jobs with the government and whistleblowers and contact these experiencers. So we're looking at this at another level.
Yeah.
And so what we noticed is that Anu favored Enlil's line.
Absolutely.
And so he wasn't a neutral dad. He was somehow steering things in his direction.
You know,
And
he
did not like Marduk at all, whether it was a personality clash or a genetic thing. We're not 100% sure.
Anu had problems with Enki because Enki was just as smart as him.
He might have been jealous of his son. He might have felt threatened by his son.
Absolutely.
His son had
yes.
Draco DNA, and apparently Dracos are extremely brilliant, and they might be smarter than humanoids. We don't know.
We know he sent Enki to Earth to get and all princes, get him out of my hair. But and of course kings do that all the time.
Right. We don't know. We haven't had a conversation with
these young men might challenge me. Let them go. Take care of something at a distance.
Let me go to the next slide. Let's keep going here. Let's see. So Burke Civil War with Pretender Anu King. Okay, so we talked about this. He had Enki marry Alalu's daughter, Damkina. It was typical those times and still to this day to do these political alliances to create peace. And so that was the result. Marduk was the result of Damkina and Enki. And they had several children. We'll get into that later. And so, yes, Damkina had Marduk, who was the legal successor to Nibiru's line to rule Nibiru. And of course, as the story progresses, Anu gets to rule Nibiru, and he's also invested in never letting that happen, never letting Marduk take over. Next, go ahead. This is more on that. And then Enki is Marduk's dad. So, and then we'll get into how Enki became the name known as Lucifer. But Lucifer was the bringer of light, and the reason why Lucifer has a negative connotation is that the victor of the war always gets to write the story. And so Enki and Enlil, who were brothers, became, God and the devil, God and Satan, God and Lucifer, whatever. And whoever was the negative was the faction that Enlil, Yahweh, was demonizing. So doesn't mean that they were bad people. It's just a political, tactic to demonize. And we still see that going on today. The name calling that gets attributed. I won't name the current political system, but politician A will call politicians B, C, D, E, and F that are in competition with him names in order to create it's a psychological manipulation to invalidate the other party.
Oh, you're a liberal. No, you're a trumpet.
So we see in this, as we saw in this psychopathocracy, that this is a manipulation system that you start attributing labels to words like liberal and social and this and that, and it becomes convoluted and worked, and we lose the original meaning. Next. Okay.
So this kid, Marduk, he's raised to be a king. He practices being a king. He knows all the king stuff. He's a great fighter. He's a really bright guy, and he studied engineering. Especially, he dug on engineering, and so he studied architecture. I mean, this guy really knew lots, and he really was in good shape.
Well, they have what it takes to colonize a planet that's basically nothing there. So they have to come in and set up the whole infrastructure. So they know how to do it.
So this guy's a very, very brilliant person.
And all these Anunnaki are, they're using their full brain. They're not like humans have been dummied down. They have their full intelligence. So don't mess with the Anunnaki. They're brilliant. Next.
So after a while, the boss on Earth turned out to be Enlil, the one they call Yahweh, because basically he represented Anu on Earth. So he becomes Yahweh, and Yahweh was the one who basically had the hostages that Nebuchadnezzar had taken to Babylon write the way things up the way he wanted them written up. So that's again, this you'll see that's part of who's the light bringer and who's the dark giver. It just depends on who's writing it. It's just different as if Ralph Nader and Donald Trump were to each write the history of the United States, it wouldn't seem like this is the same country. Well, each of these guys have their own trips. Okay. But so anyway, after a while, Enlil said, "Okay, we got to give this young prince something to do, or he's going to look at the slides, not at me. Okay, look at the slides. Make me on slides so I can look, so I can think. Okay." Or I'll just move out of the way.
Okay, here.
So the boss, Enlil, Yahweh, said, "Okay, look, I better give Marduk, like it's called Satan. I better give Marduk a job. I just had my son kill a rebellious commander. I'll give Marduk." Let him take the body back to Mars, because this guy that attacked us was my boss at Mars base, and I'm going to Marduk. I want you to hang this guy's body right in the central quadrangle, so everybody can see. That's what I do to people that defy me, and you might notice it yourself, Prince Marduk. Okay, go. Okay, Janet, you shifted it. You can wrap now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So anyway, so as it says in the slide, Marduk had a number 2 named Shamgaz, and
it's called Azazel in the Bible.
It's called Azazel.
Azazel. Yeah.
El means God. So Azazel of God, El. Okay, that's why you have all those angels. They end with El, Gabriel. And so there was an incoming. Go ahead, explain.
Well, this was probably at some point something came through, and it put great big volcanic stones were pelting both Earth and Mars, and it was direct hit on Mars base. And of course, the astronauts and Marduk got away, but that was the end of his job. Next slide, please. So the next thing Marduk did is he goes down to his dad's place, Lucifer, or Enki's place. And Enki, when he lost the fixed drawing, he got as rule of the gold operations in Africa. And his brother, who dad cheated to make sure he got rule of Earth, Enlil Yahweh, got all of Eden, which is the whole area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and right up to the sea. Anyway, so so it's an act of generosity. Enlil Yahweh said to his brother Lucifer, "I give you the Basara, that beautiful area, and it used to be more extensive than it is now. That's yours forevermore, and your descendants are." So now Marduk has lost his job at Mars base because of the volcanic stones and the wreckage there. He doesn't have a job, so he goes to his dad's place, this nice place called Babil. That's where modern capital of Iraq is right nowadays. But that's the same place, and he builds a launch tower and a communication tower. That means he can monitor all the incoming data from space and all the travel of spacecraft and their submarines, and they have lots of sea-going stuff. But mainly he tunes into the whole grid and no longer, and he also could even launch toward Nibiru if he's got enough behind him. And he's basically, he has this whole plan of how he's going to build this place at Babil. He really wants to make it a place where the Earth, well, you'll see what he does with it. But in any case, this is his early attempt. And Yahweh said, "What are you doing? You can't do this. I'm the only one that gets the communication tower." And Marduk just ignores him and he goes on with it. Next slide. So Yahweh sends his son in here and they bomb. That's the so-called Tower of Babel. That's how Babel got its Babel. Babel got babbled because what Enlil Yahweh said, "Hey, from now on, there's only at the very most 300 or so of us on the ground, and by now there's hundreds of thousands of these earthlings, and that we've created to be our slaves. If they ever realize that there's so few of us, we've had it. So let's keep them divided." And Marduk is he's fraternizing too much with these creatures, and they might become a threat to us. So let's make sure they don't speak the same language. Let's make sure that they don't write the same script, and keep pitting them against each other in every way, trade, whatever. You take it now.
So Marduk took a human hybrid daughter. I mean, not daughter, wife. It was Enkini's daughter named Sarpanet. So that was one of the reasons they told him, you can never be king of the Nibiru or king of the earth or anything, because you are married to I hit the wrong thing. You are married to a human. And she was mainly Anunnaki. Yeah, the Anunnaki were extremely tall. You can see she was very tall. But that was forbidden. So the original racism.
Well,
okay.
If you would please go back.
Sure.
Yeah, and so what this really meant was Marduk was saying, "I'm going to ally myself with these humans." And I can tell you that is exactly what Yahweh and Anu feared the most. Oh gosh, there's so many of them, and they've been in awe of us because we've kept our distance and so forth. But okay, look, tell you what, you can marry. The council at Nibiru talked about it. They did this big powwow. Okay, the order is, yeah, you can marry her, but you and she and your kids can never come to Nibiru, and none of your issue can ever be a rule here, and so forth. And then you can stay on that place down there, Earth, Gaia, and so okay, they're breaking, and so the next thing that happens is who comes to the wedding. Please go back a minute. Who comes to the wedding but the astronauts that are Marduk used to be their boss. They're allied with him. Remember, he was best friends with Shamgaz, their foreman. So they've got it all figured out. They've made plans with some of Sarpanit's friends, some of the beautiful Anunnaki women that they're going to meet. Or that's one story. Another one is it was spontaneous. But in any case, after Marduk and Sarpanit get married, and during the ceremony, oh, by the way, yeah, Enlil's granddaughter goes to the ceremony and she meets Marduk's sister. Now you take it. Now it's time for the next slide.
Marduk's brother, Dumuzi. So Inanna was an one of the Enlilite clan, Enlil people's descendants, and she falls in love with Dumuzi, who's an Enkiite from the Enki clan. And so this is the next critical event is their romance, and they were betrothed at some point. But
so the royal couple has flown off. They don't even notice that Dumuzi and Inanna are getting sexual with each other. They're just into their trip. So off they fly. But Marduk is no fool. He knows darn well what's happening. So as soon as they fly off, Shamgaz and the EGD come together with the women they want to beget clans with, and we look at the next slide. They
got married. They took them for their wives, and it was depicted as the rape of the Sabine women, but it probably was something they wanted to do because they ended up marrying and having children, lots of descendants. Okay, so the Ajiji said to Enlil, who's commander of the Earth, honor our unions or die. So that was the rebellion.
They did more than just say stuff. They took their weapons and they took all the major fields. They took the landing field in Lebanon. They also took Sipar. They totally had everyone all in their guns. They had the guns. And Marduk said to Yahweh, "Don't be stupid. Give them what they want. They just want to have wives and clans. Just get them out of your hair, Dad, Grandpa, Uncle, whatever. Yeah, Uncle." And so, well, I tell you, Yahweh didn't want to hear that from upstart Satan, as he wound up calling him, Marduk. Go ahead, Jen.
So at one point, just Inanna.
At the wedding, Jesti and Anna made friends with Inanna. And Inanna told her how, hey, you know what? I'm really in love with your brother. And you know what? We're going to go to Northeast Africa, and we're going to make babies together. And I'm going to be a queen in Africa. And Jestiana heard that, and she goes over to her brother and lover, who was Marduk, and she tells him what Inanna said. So Marduk, who's jealous of Dumuzi anyway, because now Enki's hanging out with Dumuzi and they're palsy-walsy, and he already hates his younger half-brother. So they make a plan. He says, listen, baby, what I want you to do is come on to Dumuzi, enjoy sex with him, and that's always okay in our family. But you got to cry rape, and I got guys that'll arrest him then. What do you want to say about that?
So they ran after Dumuzi, and Dumuzi ran. And he fell to his death. So Inanna, who was beside herself, launched a war against Marduk. And she is a power. You don't want to mess up with her. So she physically chased Marduk into the Great Pyramid.
Anu radioed Marduk. He said, or Inanna, he said, don't catch this guy. He's got way more weapons. He'll kill you. And so she backed off. And so he hid himself in the pyramid in these really deep things. And then the people outside who were Enlil's men said, hey, you know, Marduk, come on out. We'll hear your side. I hear you saying that you didn't do it, that you just told these guys to arrest him, but that you didn't you didn't kill him. It's an unfortunate accident. And so come on up. We'll you know, you'll be okay. And so, yeah, you understand. I'm not guilty. I didn't kill the Nuzi. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. But so Anu.
Well, so they said, you're guilty. We're going to kill you. We're going to seal you in the Great Pyramid, and we can't stab you or stuff like we'd like to. Because you know, you're royal. We'll just let you suffocate in there. We're going to cut off your air. And so they do that, and they seal it off, and he's getting weaker and weaker. And Anu comes in and says, no way, you get my grandson out of there. And so they get Thoth or Ningishita to dig this extra hole, which my teacher, Zachariah Sisson, actually found much later. But in any case, this extra hole that goes right to the chamber where Marduk was, and they rescue Marduk.
Do you have a picture of that?
Not in this series.
Not in this series. Okay, so we'll put one.
And you know, there's lots of story. This is highlights. Because I want you to understand this. This is part of a sequence where I want you to understand why Earth has been suffering, and we have this dominator mindset that runs through us and really makes everything really hard on people, and how we can transcend it. So that's why we're going into the details of what this is. And so basically, Marduk was okay. Well, you can't kill him. Just send him to. Oh gosh, send him to New York, Ohio, or someplace like that. So they exiled Marduk to North America, Northeast America.
Okay.
And so.
Next slide.
Okay, next slide.
Okay. So he got pardoned, and okay, so then because we're going to wrap this up. So go ahead, explain this. Or do you want to do this the next part?
We'll do this the next part. We've already gone.
We're running a little bit long here, and we want to keep it short so we can upload this with our bandwidth. But let's see. Let's say hi to everybody again. Hi, everybody. So we're going to end it right here, and we'll pick it up with because this story goes on and on from ancient times all the way up to today. And we have thousands of slides.
No, this is only a way short. There's 40 slides in this, and I timed it to easily fit within this time, except for Ad and Lib, who got in there a lot.
We've been ad-libbing. And we have to get ready for another show. Anyway, so we want to thank you for joining us. This is part 1, and we will continue this and do some more. But we enjoy bringing these stories to you. And I'm Janet Kerr Lessin. And who are you?
I'm Dr. Sasha Lessin.
And thank you so much for joining us. And much love and blessings, and aloha. And we'll continue with part 2 another time. Thank you very much. Okay. Don't say anything until I exit.